The champagne glass shatters against the marble floor of the restaurant, and for a moment, everything stops. Marcus Chen sits frozen at the corner table, watching the woman he's been messaging for 3 weeks. The woman who promised him she valued inner beauty over everything, laugh mockingly as she live streams his humiliation to her 10,000 Instagram followers. "Look at this guy." Rachel's voice cuts through the elegant ambiance of Bella Vista. "He actually thought I'd date him. Look at those off-brand shoes, that cheap suit." Her phone camera pans across Marcus's face, catching every flicker of pain in his dark eyes. "My followers dared me to go on a blind date with the most average guy I could find, and—" She gestures dramatically at him. "Mission accomplished." Marcus's hands grip the edge of the white tablecloth. He's 34 years old, works 60-hour weeks as a financial analyst, and spent his entire lunch break yesterday picking out flowers that now sit wilting in a vase between them. The other diners are staring. Some are recording, too. This is what loneliness looks like in 2026, packaged for entertainment, monetized for likes. But what happens in the next 3 minutes will change not just Marcus's fate, but the lives of everyone watching. Marcus stands slowly. His chair scrapes against the floor. Rachel's still laughing, still filming, waiting for him to storm out or yell or give her followers the dramatic content they crave. Instead, he does something completely unexpected. He smiles. "You're absolutely right," Marcus says quietly, his voice steady despite the tremor in his chest. "These shoes are from a discount store. This suit cost $89 at a clearance sale. And you know why?" He pauses, meeting Rachel's eyes with such calm dignity that her laughter falters. "Because 3 months ago I spent my savings paying for my sister's cancer treatments. Every penny I could spare went to her medical bills. I didn't buy new clothes because I was choosing between looking impressive on a date and keeping my sister alive." The restaurant has gone completely silent. Rachel's phone is still recording, but her hand is beginning to shake. "I worked with homeless youth every Saturday for the past 2 years," Marcus continues, his voice growing stronger. "I tutored kids in underserved neighborhoods every Tuesday evening. I donated what I could to the food bank on my street. And yes, I showed up tonight hoping to meet someone who might see past the surface, who might actually mean it when they said they valued character over appearance." He picks up the flowers still fresh and bright. "But you've taught me something valuable, Rachel. You've reminded me that my worth isn't determined by people who can't see it." He places a $50 bill on the table, more than enough to cover both meals they never ate, and turns to leave. That's when it happens. A man in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit stands up from a nearby table. He's in his late 50s, silver hair, the kind of presence that commands attention without demanding it. Marcus recognizes him immediately. Everyone in Seattle's business community would. It's Richard Foster, CEO of Foster Innovations, one of the largest tech companies in the Pacific Northwest, worth billions, featured in Forbes. The kind of man Marcus has admired from a distance for years. "Mr. Chen," Richard's voice carries across the restaurant. "Marcus Chen, is it?" Marcus freezes confused. "Yes, sir." "I couldn't help overhearing." Richard approaches with measured steps. "You mentioned working with homeless youth. Which organization?" "Tomorrow's Hope Center, sir, on Pike Street." Richard nods slowly and something flickers in his eyes. Recognition, perhaps, or memory. "I know it well. My son volunteered there before he passed away 5 years ago." The restaurant seems to hold its breath. "He used to come home and tell me about this financial analyst who'd show up every Saturday, rain or shine, teaching kids about budgeting and savings. Kids who'd never had anyone teach them that money could be a tool for building a life instead of just surviving. He said this analyst never missed a week, never asked for recognition, just showed up." Marcus's throat tightens. "I remember your son, Mr. Foster, Daniel. He was extraordinary. He brought joy to those kids in ways I never could. He mentioned you by name in his journal." Richard's voice cracks slightly. "After he died, I read every entry. He wrote that you were one of the few people who gave him hope that good people still existed in the business world, that success didn't have to mean losing your humanity. The weight of those words settles over the restaurant like snow. Richard turns to address the room, his voice carrying authority and emotion in equal measure. This young woman thought she was exposing someone's inadequacy. Instead, she's revealed something else entirely, her own poverty of character. He looks directly at Rachel, whose face has gone pale, her phone now lowered. You have 10,000 followers watching this. Good. Let them see what really matters. He turns back to Marcus. My company is launching a new initiative, a venture capital fund specifically for entrepreneurs from underserved communities. People with brilliant ideas but no access to traditional funding, no connections, no expensive suits. A slight smile. I've been searching for someone to lead it, someone who understands what it means to build something from nothing, someone with integrity that can't be bought or compromised. Marcus feels the room spinning slightly. I need a director of social impact investment, Richard continues. The position starts at $250,000 annually with equity. But more importantly, you'd have the power to change lives, to give opportunities to people the world overlooks. He extends his hand. I'd like you to interview for the position, based on what I've witnessed tonight and what I know of your work. I suspect you're exactly who we need. Marcus stares at the offered hand, unable to process the magnitude of this moment. From humiliation to opportunity in the span of 5 minutes. From being mocked for his cheap suit to being offered a position that could change his entire life. He shakes Richard's hand, his own trembling slightly. I don't know what to say. Say you'll come to my office Monday morning. Richard hands him a business card. 9 a.m. We'll talk about how you want to change the world. As Richard returns to his table, the restaurant erupts in spontaneous applause. Several diners approach Marcus, shaking his hand, some with tears in their eyes. An elderly woman hugs him, whispering, "Thank you for restoring my faith." Rachel is still standing there, her phone dangling from her hand, her live stream showing her followers a very different ending than she'd planned. The comments are flooding in, thousands of them, but they're not the validation she expected. They're calling her out, demanding she apologize. Some are unfollowing in real time, her counter dropping as Marcus watches. She opens her mouth, but no words come. What can she possibly say? Marcus surprises himself with what he does next. He walks back to her, and when he speaks, his voice is gentle, not vindictive, not cruel, just honest. I hope you learned something from this, he says quietly. I hope you figure out that people aren't content for your feed. They're not entertainment. They're human beings with stories and struggles and value that has nothing to do with their clothes or their bank accounts. He pauses. I hope someday someone shows you the kind of grace you didn't show me tonight, because that's how we all grow. He leaves the restaurant with his head high, those discount shoes carrying him toward a future he never imagined. But the story doesn't end there. Monday morning, Marcus sits in Richard Foster's corner office, overlooking Elliott Bay. The view is breathtaking. Seattle's skyline gleaming in the morning sun, ferries cutting white paths through blue water. But what takes his breath away is what Richard tells him. I did some research this weekend, Richard says, sliding a folder across the desk. Called some people. Do you know what I learned about you, Marcus? Marcus shakes his head, nervous. That homeless youth center you volunteer at? Their funding was cut last year. They were going to close. Then someone made anonymous donations, small amounts, $50 or $100 at a time, but consistent. Every week for 10 months. They traced the payments. They came from your account. Marcus's face flushes. I didn't want recognition. You were already struggling financially because of your sister's medical bills. Richard interrupts gently. You were eating ramen for dinner most nights, but you still gave. Those kids needed it more than I needed new clothes, Marcus says simply. Richard leans back in his chair, studying him. My son wrote something in his journal a month before he died. He said, "Dad, I met the kind of person you always told me to be. He doesn't have much, but he gives everything. If I can become half the man Marcus Chen is, I'll have lived a meaningful life." The emotion in Richard's voice is raw, unguarded. "He died before he could tell you that," Richard continues, "before he could thank you for being the example he needed, so I'm telling you now on his behalf." His eyes are bright with unshed tears. "You gave my son something precious in his final year. You showed him that goodness still exists, that success and kindness can coexist." Marcus's own eyes blur. "Daniel gave me just as much. He reminded me why the work mattered. Then let's honor his memory together." Richard opens another folder. "This isn't just a job offer, Marcus, it's a partnership. I want to build something that would have made Daniel proud, a fund that invests in people like you, people who've been overlooked, underestimated, counted out, people with more character in their discount shoes than most executives have in their whole bodies." Over the next hour, they talk about vision and values, about the kind of impact they want to make. Richard shares his own story, how he started with nothing, how people gave him chances he didn't deserve on paper, how he spent years trying to pay it forward but never quite knew how. "You're the how," Richard says. "You understand both sides. You've lived in the struggle. You know what it's like to be invisible, and you've never let it make you bitter." By the time Marcus leaves the office, he's not just the new director of social impact investment. He's a partner in something bigger than a job. He's part of a mission. But there's one more twist to this story. That evening, Marcus's phone rings. Unknown number. "Marcus Chen?" A woman's voice, professional but warm. "Yes?" "My name is Jennifer Kim. I'm a producer for Real Stories, the documentary series on streaming. That video from the restaurant Friday night, it went viral. 30 million views across all platforms. And the story that came out after, about your volunteer work, your sister, the job offer, people can't stop talking about it." Marcus's stomach tightens. Fame is the last thing he wants. "We'd like to do a feature on you," Jennifer continues, "but not the way you think. We want to find 10 people, people like you who've been doing extraordinary things with no recognition. People working minimum wage but volunteering at soup kitchens, single parents going to night school while raising kids, immigrants building businesses while supporting extended families back home. We want to tell their stories, really tell them, and we want you to help us find them. Why me? Because you see people others don't, because you value the things that matter, and because your story proves that character isn't just its own reward. Sometimes the world does. Notice, sometimes grace comes back around." She pauses. "We're calling it the Invisible Heroes Project. We want you to be our guide." Marcus thinks about all the people he's met over the years. The single mother at the food bank who always helped sort donations despite barely having food for her own family. The elderly janitor at his office who sent every spare dollar to put his granddaughter through college. The teenager at Tomorrow's Hope who was living in his car but still tutoring younger kids in math. Stories that deserve to be told. Lives that deserve to be celebrated. "I'm in," Marcus says, "on one condition. Name it. Whatever platform we have, whatever audience we reach, we use it to create real change, not just feel-good content. We connect these people with resources, opportunities. We turn attention into action." Jennifer laughs, delighted. "I was hoping you'd say something like that." "Let's change some lives, Marcus." 6 months later, Marcus stands on a stage in front of 2,000 people at Seattle's Benaroya Hall. The Social Impact Investment Fund has distributed its first $10 million to 47 entrepreneurs from underserved communities. The Invisible Heroes Project has aired its first season, and the response has been overwhelming, not just views, but tangible help for the people featured. Job offers, scholarships, donations, second chances. His sister is in remission, sitting in the front row with tears streaming down her face. Richard Foster is there too, smiling with pride his own son can't see but would have loved. And in the back, barely visible, is Rachel. She showed up uninvited, but Marcus had her name added to the guest list anyway. She's different now. Quieter, more thoughtful. She started volunteering at a domestic violence shelter after her public humiliation led to deep self-reflection. She hasn't posted on Instagram in months. Instead, she's been learning what it means to contribute rather than consume. Marcus doesn't mention her during his speech, doesn't shame her or use her as a cautionary tale. That's not who he is. Instead, he talks about second chances, about how we're all capable of growth, about how the worst moments of our lives can become catalysts for transformation if we're willing to learn. A year ago, Marcus says, his voice carrying through the hall, I sat in a restaurant being humiliated for wearing cheap shoes. I was told I wasn't good enough, not impressive enough, not worthy of love or respect. He pauses, letting the weight of those words settle. But here's what I learned that night. Our worth isn't determined by the people who can't see it. It's not measured in designer labels or bank accounts or Instagram followers. It's measured in how we treat people when no one's watching, how we give when we have nothing, how we show up for others even when we're struggling ourselves. The audience is absolutely silent, hanging on every word. That night, I met a man who saw value where others saw inadequacy, who recognized character where others only saw a cheap suit. Richard Foster didn't just offer me a job, he offered me a chance to prove that goodness matters, that integrity has power, that the world we want to live in is built by people who refuse to let cruelty win. He looks out at the sea of faces. Every single one of you has the power to be that person for someone else, to see the invisible, to value the overlooked, to give someone a chance they don't have on paper but deserve in their heart. His voice grows stronger. That's what we're building here. Not just a fund or a project or a program. We're building a movement of people who believe that everyone deserves to be seen, to be valued, to be given a shot at the life they're working so hard to build. The applause is thunderous. After the event, dozens of people line up to talk to Marcus. They share their own stories of being overlooked, counted out, told they weren't enough. They thank him for giving voice to their experiences, for proving that visibility matters, that someone is watching, that grace exists. An older man in a janitor's uniform waits until everyone else has left. Marcus recognizes him from his old office building. Mr. Marcus, the man says in accented English, I clean the floors at Foster Innovations now. Better job, better pay, because of you. His eyes shine. My granddaughter, she starts college next month, full scholarship, because someone saw her application on your project website, because you told her story. Marcus embraces him, this man he used to greet every morning, whose name he learned and always used, whose dreams he asked about. You did this, Marcus tells him. You worked 3 jobs to support her. You never gave up. All I did was make sure someone noticed. You made me visible, the man says simply. Thank you. That's the real transformation, not the salary or the title or the recognition. It's the ripple effect. The way one act of grace creates 1,000 more. The way being seen helps you see others. The way receiving a chance makes you determined to give chances. As Marcus drives home that night, he thinks about the journey from that restaurant humiliation to this moment, about how the worst night of his life led to the best year, about how Richard Foster's kindness didn't just change his circumstances, it changed his capacity to change others. He thinks about Daniel Foster, the young man he knew briefly, but who impacted him deeply, whose death created a legacy neither of them could have imagined. He thinks about Rachel, and he hopes she's finding her way to becoming who she's meant to be. And he thinks about everyone still sitting in restaurants, wearing cheap shoes, wondering if there'll ever be enough. Everyone working double shifts and still donating to charity. Everyone invisible, overlooked, underestimated. This is for them. This entire journey, the pain, the triumph, the platform. It's all for them. Because grace isn't just about receiving, it's about extending. It's about taking what was given to you and multiplying it, sharing it, making sure others feel what you felt when someone finally saw you. That's how the world changes, not through grand gestures or viral moments, but through people choosing kindness, choosing to see, choosing to believe that everyone, absolutely everyone, deserves a chance to be valued for who they are, not what they appear to be. Marcus pulls into his driveway. Tomorrow he'll review 50 new applications for the fund. He'll read stories of struggle and determination, of dreams deferred but not abandoned. And he'll have the power to say yes, to give chances, to make people visible. But tonight, he sits in his car for a moment, looking at his reflection in the rearview mirror. Same face that was humiliated a year ago, same person, but fundamentally transformed by grace received and grace given. Thank you, he whispers to the universe, to Richard, to Daniel, to everyone who saw him when he felt invisible. Then he goes inside to call his sister, to volunteer for Saturday's shift at Tomorrow's Hope, to live the life he's been given. Not perfectly, but purposefully, because that's what grace demands. Not perfection, just purpose, just showing up, just refusing to let humiliation make you cruel or success make you forget where you came from. That's the real story. That's what changes fate forever. If this story touched your heart, if you felt even a small part of Marcus's journey, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, because we're going to keep telling stories like this, stories about real people doing extraordinary things with ordinary resources, stories about grace and second chances, and the power of being seen. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, someone who feels invisible, someone who's been told they're not enough, someone wearing those cheap shoes and wondering if anyone notices the sacrifices they're making. And here's what I really want you to do. Go into the comments right now and tell me your story. Tell me about a time someone saw you when you felt invisible. Or tell me about someone you know who deserves to be seen, because these stories matter. Your stories matter. You matter. Let's build something here, not just a comment section, but a community of people who believe in seeing each other, who believe that character counts, who believe that grace changes everything. Drop your stories below. I'm reading every single one, and who knows, your story might be the next one we tell. Your journey might be the one that changes someone else's fate forever. Because that's how this works. That's how we build the world we want to live in. One story at a time, one act of grace at a time, one choice to see, to value, to believe in each other. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Now go out there and be someone's Richard Foster. Be the person who sees, who gives a chance, who changes a fate. The world is waiting for your grace.